Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode dedicated to the wonderful world of gardening. Now, any gardener worth their salt knows that a healthy garden is a happy garden, but sometimes those pesky pests have other ideas. Did you know that over 30% of garden pests can be controlled naturally without harmful chemicals? We can keep our plants healthy and thriving, and protect the precious ecosystem of our gardens without resorting to harsh chemical interventions. So in this video, we'll be exploring 10 natural pest control hacks that every gardener should know. Let's roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty. In a good way, of course. Now, the first line of defense, and my personal favorite, is to invite some natural allies into your garden. Think of it as creating a haven for beneficial insects like ladybugs, lacewings, and praying mantises. The key is to make your garden irresistible to these beneficial insects. And how do we do that? With lots of beautiful flowers, of course. There are so many, but here are a few examples. Alyssum, cosmos, marigolds, nasturtiums, dill, fennel, yarrow, and cilantro. These beauties act like a neon sign to these helpful creatures. These plants provide nectar and pollen that beneficial insects can't resist. And while they're at it, they'll lay their eggs, ensuring a new generation of pest-munching machines are ready to tackle any unwanted visitors. A simple shallow dish filled with pebbles and water acts as a miniature watering hole, keeping them hydrated and happy. Remember, a healthy garden is a balanced ecosystem. By encouraging beneficial insects, we're not just controlling pests, we're creating a thriving mini world teeming with life. Let's talk about companion planting, a technique used for centuries. Strategically plant different species together for mutual benefit. Pair plants with complementary strengths. Basil repels pests like aphids. Its scent keeps aphids away from tomatoes. Tomatoes and basil are a classic pairing. Marigolds deter nematodes. Carrots and onions protect each other from pests. Beans and corn support each other. Corn supports beans. Beans enrich soil. Companion planting creates a biodiverse garden. Improve soil, attract pollinators, enhance flavor. Experiment to find the best combinations for your garden. Despite our best efforts, pests still find their way into our gardens. Before you reach for chemical sprays, try neem oil. Derived from neem seeds, it's been used for centuries. Neem oil is a powerful insecticide and fungicide. It works against aphids, mites, and fungal diseases. And it doesn't harm beneficial insects or the environment. Making neem oil spray is simple. Mix 2 tablespoons of neem oil, 1 quart of water, and a half teaspoon of liquid Castile soap. Mix the liquid Castile soap with water, then add the neem oil. Shake well and spray your plants. Focus on the undersides of leaves where pests hide. Next, we're going to add a bit of spice to our pest control arsenal hot pepper spray. This natural repellent works on the simple principle that some creatures, like us, find chili peppers a tad too hot to handle. Simply blend your chosen hot peppers with water and let the mixture steep for several hours. Once steeped, strain the liquid through a fine mesh sieve or cheesecloth to remove any pepper bits. The diluted pepper spray can be used to deter a variety of pests, from those pesky aphids and caterpillars to larger critters like rabbits and deer. The capsaicin in the peppers irritates their senses, making your plants far less appealing. Think of it as a polite way of saying, "This garden's off the menu." Now, for those who prefer a slightly more savory approach to pest control, we have another excellent option: garlic and onion spray. Just like hot peppers, garlic and onions contain potent compounds that many insects and pests find repulsive. To create this pungent but effective spray, simply blend a few cloves of garlic and a small onion with water. Let the mixture steep for several hours, allowing those pungent oils to infuse the water. Once steeped, strain the liquid through a fine mesh sieve or cheesecloth, just like we did with the hot pepper spray. This potent concoction works wonders against a wide range of garden invaders. Aphids, Japanese beetles, and even slugs and snails will think twice about crossing the line once they get a whiff of this potent potion. And the best part is, it's completely safe for humans, pets, and beneficial insects. Now for our next hack, we're going to talk about providing physical protection for our precious plants, especially when they're young and vulnerable. And that's where row covers come in. Think of row covers as a lightweight, breathable blanket for your plants. They're typically made from a thin, spun fabric that allows sunlight, air, and water to pass through, while creating a barrier against pests, birds, and even harsh weather conditions. Row covers are particularly useful for protecting young seedlings and newly emerging plants from hungry birds and insects. Simply drape the fabric over your plants or support hoops, ensuring the edges are secured to the ground to prevent any sneaky pests from crawling underneath. Once your plants have matured and start to flower, it's important to remove the row covers to allow our buzzing friends, the pollinators, to do their job. Next, we're going to delve into the fascinating world of diatomaceous earth, a natural and incredibly effective pest control method that harnesses the power of ancient fossilized organisms. Diatomaceous earth is a powdery substance made from the fossilized remains of tiny aquatic creatures called diatoms. These microscopic algae have hard shells made of silica, the same material that makes up sand and glass. While diatomaceous earth may seem harmless, it's a formidable weapon against crawling insects. Under a microscope, those diatom shells are covered in tiny, sharp edges. When insects crawl over diatomaceous earth, these sharp edges pierce their exoskeletons, causing dehydration. The beauty of diatomaceous earth is its selectivity. It targets insects with exoskeletons like ants, slugs, earwigs, and snails, while remaining harmless to mammals, birds, and even our beloved earthworms. To use it, simply sprinkle a thin layer of diatomaceous earth around the base of your plants or directly on the leaves where you see signs of pest activity. Just a word of caution, it's best to wear a mask when applying diatomaceous earth, as it can irritate the respiratory system if inhaled. Now, this next tip may seem like common sense, but you'd be surprised how often it's overlooked, and that is, quite simply, keeping your garden clean. A tidy garden, you see, is far less appealing to pests. Pests are opportunistic creatures, always on the lookout for food and shelter. By removing potential hiding places and food sources, we can significantly reduce their numbers and discourage them from setting up camp in our gardens. Regularly remove any weeds. Weeds compete with our desirable plants for nutrients, water, and sunlight, and they can also harbor pests and diseases. Clear away any fallen leaves, plant debris, and fallen fruit. Remember, a clean garden is a healthy garden. Now, for those of you who enjoy a bit of strategy, our next hack is right up your alley: crop rotation. It's a technique that's been used for centuries to prevent the buildup of pests and diseases in the soil, and it's as relevant today as it ever was. The principle behind crop rotation is quite simple. Different plants have different nutrient requirements and attract different pests and diseases. By rotating our crops each year, we interrupt the life cycle of these pests, making it much harder for them to establish a foothold in our gardens. For example, let's say you plant tomatoes in the same spot year after year. Tomato hornworms lay their eggs in the soil, ready to hatch and feast the following year. However, if you rotate your tomatoes with a different crop, such as beans or lettuce, the hornworm larvae won't have their preferred food source and are less likely to survive. Crop rotation also helps to improve soil fertility. Now, our final hack might seem like the most obvious, but it's one that often trips up even experienced gardeners, and that is watering wisely. Proper watering is essential for healthy plant growth, but it's also a delicate balancing act. Overwatering can create a breeding ground for fungal diseases and root rot, which in turn can attract pests. Underwatering can stress plants, making them more susceptible to pest infestations. A good rule of thumb is to water deeply and less frequently. This encourages plants to develop strong, deep roots, making them more resilient. When watering, try to avoid wetting the leaves, as wet leaves can provide the perfect conditions for fungal diseases to take hold. Instead, aim your watering can or hose at the base of the plant, directing the water straight to the roots where it's needed most. It's also a good idea to check the soil moisture regularly. Different plants have different watering needs, so it's always best to do a bit of research and get to know the preferences of your particular plants. Remember, gardening is all about working with nature, not against it. By embracing these natural methods, we can create a healthy, balanced ecosystem in our gardens that benefits both plants and wildlife. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more gardening advice. And be sure to share your own natural pest control tips in the comments below. I always love learning from fellow gardeners. Until next time, happy gardening.